To the best explanation, at least that I think, of anxiety that you will ever get. This is part 3, where I'm talking about the best bit, how you recover from anxiety if you understand what it is and why you've been baffled by it for so long. So please watch part 1, where I talk about how you get into this state and how it's all completely explainable. It's no mystery. There's no sort of scary, weird secret to it. It's all completely explainable. And I talk about the process of your nervous system becoming sensitized using this metaphor. So watch part 1. In part 2, I talk about what normally happens when the anxiety is boiling over and all these weird, scary symptoms are coming up, mental symptoms, physical symptoms that bubble up when we cross the threshold into the anxiety state, and what normally happens, why we're baffled by it, but also what we often do when we're trying to seek help and deal with it that just keeps the lid firmly clamped on and keeps us sensitized over time. But in this third video, I'm going to talk about the good news, which is that you can fully recover from it. No matter how long or how many years your nervous system's been exposed to cumulative stress, it's been on the flames of life, as I talk about in part 1, where you've been bubbling away, the stress temperature's been rising, or the pressure on your nervous system's been rising over the years. It doesn't matter if it's been weeks, months, or years, you can always recover from it because it's a slow process that's occurred over time that we were unaware of. So when we end up in the anxiety state, it feels very odd, scary, and weird because we weren't aware of the process. Now that you know the process, it's no longer a mystery. It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean when your nervous system's simmering away and all these difficult, unpleasant symptoms come up in the form of fear, worry, intrusive thoughts, difficult physical symptoms, dizziness, heart palpitations, panic, agoraphobia, OCD, obsessive thinking, whatever. It doesn't mean it's easy. But it still doesn't mean it's serious. It's highly unpleasant, as I talked about in video 2, but it's not serious because all it is this release of adrenaline that we start to fear because your nervous system is tired because of the stress that you experienced. So, in order to recover from it, all we have to do is start to take the lid off the pressure cooker. Simple as that. We just have to start to take it off, and all that stress and tension will eventually simmer down back to normal levels. So the process of desensitization occurs, and your body will stop sending you all these unpleasant symptoms, and your body will stop reacting to all these unpleasant thoughts and behaviors. That's all we have to do. Simple, right? Easy, right? Well, it is indeed simple. But it's not easy because we've not only been exposed to stress for a period of time, we've started to form the anxiety habit where we start to push away any signs of discomfort. We've learnt to clamp down on it. We've learnt to avoid certain situations, to resist, to be scared of what we didn't understand for so long, which makes sense at the time. But these survival mechanisms cause us to clamp down and be fearful of the very thing that we need to start allowing in order to recover. So there's 2 things we need to do. We need to be careful of life stresses, right? If you're working 20-hour days and you're trying to then take the lid off, but you don't have any time to cope with the symptoms that inevitably arise when we start to release the pressure, then it's going to be very hard. So we just need to look at lifestyle. We just need to think about our lifestyle and go, do I have enough space to start to practice taking the lid off bit by bit to allow my body to desensitize, to be able to practice with these symptoms that bubble up from time to time in surges or slow little drips as we release in order to recover, because that is all we have to do. We have to do the opposite of what your body has been trying to do for so many years. Remember, we didn't know what this was. It's all unpleasant. It's this overactive flight or fight response, which is designed to get our attention. It's designed to make us fearful when there is a physical threat to our lives, when there's a tiger there about to eat us. But when it's overreacting to everyday thoughts, fears, worries, and sending up really weird flight or fight symptoms that are normal if we're facing a threat, but feel very odd if we're just sitting at our desk, lying in bed, we start to get very scared of it. And so we've learnt to clamp down and push it aside. We know this tension is there. On some level, we know this is not necessary or normal, but we don't know what's going on. So we've just learned to push it aside, avoid, repress, resist, etc., as I've talked about already. So what we have to do is start to learn tools to just start to let go, just to start to allow the lid to come off. As these symptoms arise, just let it all happen as best we can. Instead of trying to work it all out, trying to push down, work it all out, see if there's something else wrong. Maybe it's not this, maybe I'm different, maybe there's something else wrong with me, maybe I'm different and my brain just works differently, maybe I'm born like this, whatever. And there's going to be 1,001 different or what ifs around it. We just have to start to slow down and let it all happen. And the more we start to practice, when the symptoms start to bubble up, we just take the lid off as best we can. Over time, it gets easier and easier, and that pressure on the nervous system, that heat, starts to simmer down nicely, and we get back to normal levels, and our flight or fight response starts to only activate when there are real physical threats. And that, in a nutshell, my friend, is the process of recovery. But it doesn't mean it's easy, because we have to undo a lot of the habitual reactions that we've learned, which cause us to resist taking the lid off, because we've learnt that this is scary, this is something weird, there's something wrong with my brain, I don't know what this is, why is this happening? And there's a huge amount of fear that we've learnt around it. So we actually take it very seriously. So the idea of letting these symptoms, this energy out in the form of symptoms, letting them run free, let the thoughts come up, let the physical symptoms do their thing, feels very scary indeed, because our flight or fight response is trying to protect us. It's trying to stop us from doing this, because that's what it's learnt to do to survive through life with no other tools. But we now know, through what I've said in these videos, that this is highly unpleasant, but it's not serious. You now are starting to understand it and hopefully be less baffled, which means you're in the best place to start letting the lid off. And what we can do is start to use the body to slow down, go loosen the body, and let it all happen little by little over time, and understanding that it just means it might be a bit of a bumpy process. At times we might go back on the flames of stress and it might bubble up again. Through simple habit, it will bubble up. Through unconsciously, we're going to put the lid back down on at times, and that's normal. There might be some toing and froing as we start to get comfortable doing this. And that's what my whole YouTube channel is about. I've got more in-depth masterclasses on my anxiety tool shop on my website, openchange.com. I've got guided practices to use, as well as all the support on YouTube to show you bit by bit how you start to let it all happen. How you start to allow the pressure cooker to start to simmer down so your nervous system goes back to equilibrium. And that's really all you have to do. Simple, yes. Easy, not always. And that's why I have all these resources available to you. If you've got any questions, let me know. But I hope this series helped you feel less bewildered and more hopeful of recovery. Take care.